I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Hey, Ghoul friends, it's me, Adrian or Aiden. Either way, you are still listening to Susto. Well, you may not be this time for real. So as you probably have seen in the title of this episode, I am taking a week off. Don't worry, it's just this week. I will follow my regular schedule, so we're not going to prolong. It's just this week, and then, in 2 more weeks, as always, I will have a new episode for you. Things have just been pretty hectic over here between work, and I did take a quick weekend vacation. If you all follow online at Susto Podcast on every social media platform, you may have seen that I took a trip to Vegas. I went with my best friend and my boyfriend, and we saw Lady Gaga in Las Vegas, and oh my God, basically I need time to process all this. For those of you who know me at all, you know I am a little monster. I have been for many, many years, and it was just so exciting to get to see her. The show was so good. If you are thinking about it, if you have any reservations, I highly recommend. It is an amazing show. The production was great, and it was a perfect set list in my opinion. So please, again, if you're thinking about it, do yourself a favor if you can and go see her live. It was such a good show. And it was also my first time in Vegas. That was a whole experience of itself. I actually love Vegas. I had so much fun out there. I didn't do 100 things. We had stuff planned for each day. One of those being visiting the Zach Baggins Haunted Museum, which was a lot of fun in and of itself. And you can see more about my experience there if you visit youtube.com/@sustopodcast. Yeah, I'm making a vlog about my Vegas trip. And like I said before, I'm going to start making videos. And I have another one up there from last week about my process of making my t-shirt for the Gaga concert, which I ended up buying merch, but I wanted to have something to wear there so I could, just enjoy the show and think about merch afterward. Anyway, the point is, go visit my YouTube, check out the vlogs. Thank you all so much for all of your support. Thank you for your patience, and I hope that you enjoy this week's feature. This is a special feed drop coming to you from none other than one of my best ghoul friends, one of my podcast mentors. I think I've said this before, the one and only Lainey Hobbs, or as I like to call her, Slaney Hobbs. She has been so generous and so kind as to deliver us with an episode from one of her podcasts, It's Haunted. What now? For this week. So enjoy that episode. Make sure that you go follow Lainey on everything as well. And I will see you all in the next episode. Enjoy this one. Thank you for the time off. I already miss you all. Oh, and one last reminder, we have the Susto Spellbook Club. Again, keep an eye out on social media. This month is already at an end, which is how does that happen? Time flies. But with that being said, I am going to schedule the meeting. Right now, I'm thinking August 2nd. It's a Saturday. So it is, this month is over and it is the very beginning of next month. So if you are a ghoul friend on Patreon at the middle tier or higher, remember you have access to the book club Discord channel. And if you sign up on Patreon, you get automatic access to that when you plug in your Discord information. So that gives you access to vote on the next book that we're going to read. and you will have had access to that chat this whole time. So we've been kind of chatting about our experience with the book in there. Again, either way, keep an eye out on social media. That's where I will post all final information, but most likely we are going to be meeting on the 2nd of August online to have our discussion about the book. Also, if you saw on social media, I got to meet Stephen Graham Jones. I went to a screening of the movie Silver Bullet. It's a Stephen King movie, and this was hosted by the King Cast, which is a horror podcast, and they focus, of course, on, you guessed it, Stephen King work and films. It was so fun. I love that movie. It was my first time seeing it. It was so campy. It was like, the story was really well done, I think. I don't know. I enjoyed it. Like, we were laughing throughout the movie, right? Because it's kind of silly, these older movies, when we look back on them, but it was still a really good time. I really enjoyed it. So if you haven't seen that movie, check it out. Thank you, King Cast, for hosting it, and thank you for Austin Film Society for opening your theater for them to do that. And of course, they did a live taping of their show after the movie featuring Stephen Graham Jones. I got a signed copy of his latest book, and I got my copy of Buffalo Hunter Hunter signed. So excited to have those in the collection. Okay, either way, sorry, I feel like I've taken up a lot of time just like gossiping with y'all, but you know me, you know that I love the Cheeseman, and I love to hear yours too. So show some love on social media, show some love on the YouTube channel. As always, if you would like to share your own story on a Letters from the Beyond episode or social media, you already know, visit my website, sustopodcast.com, or visit my link tree, linktr.ee/susto, and there is a submit your story, tell me a story button on both of those. You can send your story, any video, audio, recording, anything you think should be featured on an episode or on social media. Please send it in to me. We're going to go ahead and jump into this episode. Thank you once again, Lainey, for sharing an episode with us to drop in the feed while I am taking this time off. I'm going to go now and let you enjoy that episode. I'll talk to you later.
Welcome back to It's Haunted, What Now? I'm your host, Lainey. You know that feeling when you hear a story so strange, so unsettling, it just kind of latches onto your brain and refuses to let go? The kind that makes you glance over your shoulder, double-check the locks, or leave a hallway light on, just in case. We've gathered some of the strangest, creepiest, and most bone-chilling stories, things that start off quiet, maybe even funny, but leave you wide awake at night thinking, what if? Because, let's be honest, we've all heard about shadow people, but what about Mr. Coffee Man? So when the episode's over, well, if you start to hear faint footsteps, or you feel like something's watching you from the corner of the room, don't worry, it's probably nothing. Probably. Okay, ready to get spooked? The first twisted tale comes from Knits and Knots Lady, who tells us about the mysterious Mr. Coffee Man. When my son was a toddler, he kept pointing at the corner of the room and giggling, saying, "Mama, Mr. Coffee Man." I didn't really take it that seriously and thought it was some sort of imaginary friend. He did this maybe 5 or so times when he was a toddler, and I would sometimes catch him talking to someone that wasn't there, then stop and giggle when I entered the room. This went on for a good couple of years until Mr. Coffee Man was mainly forgotten as we got busy with sports, school, etc. Recently, while having a family dinner, we were talking about imaginary friends, and I told them how my son had one named Mr. Coffee Man. My mother-in-law just about choked on her roast when I said that. She said my husband would point at the corner of the room when he was about 2 years old and would clap and giggle and yell, "Coffee Man." Mind you, we didn't live in the same house. My husband and I live in a house about 2 hours away from where he grew up. My husband also never talked about Mr. Coffee Man. He said he vaguely remembers, and when I asked my son, he's 7 now, he said he barely remembers, but he thought Mr. Coffee Man was a distant relative or a friend we're not close with anymore. When I quizzed them both about what he looked like, they both pretty much just said tall, big smile, funny, but couldn't remember facial features or details. Also, I don't know why they both call him Mr. Coffee Man. We still couldn't figure out who Mr. Coffee Man was and why they saw the same imaginary friend or maybe an entity. Does anyone have an experience like this or know what this is? I got chills when I read this the first time. I was like, oh no, ma'am. Could you imagine if my daughter and my husband both were like haunted or saw the same thing when they were both children? I'd be like, cursed beings, sage immediately. I don't know what to do. Also, I want to touch on a comment that we got where we said that kids are creepy and they were like, they're innocent, all this stuff. Yes, we know that. We're not saying that kids are creepy intentionally. We're saying that like the things they say are creepy, not that the actual child is creepy. So I just want to offer that clarification, okay? We're not kid haters here. Maybe some of you in the audience are, but I'm not a kid hater, right? Okay? Kids are creepy, but they're also cute, so it's fine. Creepy cute. We love things like that. Now, back to Mr. Coffee Man. The thing that I imagined immediately as I was hearing this, I don't know if you guys remember like Unsolved Mysteries or like that A&E show where it's like, my kid saw a ghost or whatever. Do you remember the case of Mr. Gordy? Right? And the girl would be like on a swing and she'd be like, Mom, I'm talking to Mr. Gordy. And they found out like Mr. Gordy was an old man living in the house, all that stuff. Okay. That's exactly who I thought of. I was like, oh, it's like Mr. Gordy. He's like a jolly old man with a coffee cup. That's the only way I could think of why anybody would call somebody a coffee man, unless he had a cacao plant in his hand. But honestly, I think it's probably because he had like a coffee cup in his hand or something like that. That's what I thought anyways. But the name being so specific is wild enough, again, but completely different houses, different years apart. I still say no on this one. Like, absolutely not. Pass me. I will not collect $200. And neither of them fully remember him now, so I swear that family hauntings or generational spirits like this feel so much heavier. Like, this isn't random, it's connected. And I wonder if eventually, if your child decides to have a child in the future, if Mr. Coffee Man will pop up again, or if someone else in the family starts suddenly talking in the corner. I'm really invested now, so check back in like 20 years. Now, Nick is here to terrify us about a beloved place of water slides and an entity out of a cosmic horror novella. Hello everyone. My family and I had a weird night at the Great Wolf Lodge and wanted to check in if anyone else had similar encounters at this place. We've stayed here 3 times before with no problems ever, but this was the first time anything like this has ever happened. We stayed in a suite room that had 2 conjoining rooms with 2 doors where you can lock the room from either side. The kids stayed in the kid-style room with bunk beds, and we stayed in the non-kids room. We kept the conjoining doors open for both sides, and I made sure the main doors for both rooms were fully locked, including the lock where you can't fully open the door from the outside. At midnight, my son, who's 6 years old, ran into our room. He was next to our bed and was crying half asleep. I asked him if he had a bad dream, and he said, "No, I really saw something scary in the room. It was a big kid with a dark shadow walking around. I ran right past him to get here." I knew I'd check the room before we went to sleep, and I figured it was his imagination, so we went back to sleep. Then at 3 a.m., my wife sat up frantically looking around, and I asked her what's the matter. She said, "Someone yelled, 'Mom, you honestly didn't hear that?' I told her, no, I didn't. Then she asked me to go check on our daughter. I go to the kids' bunk bed den in the next room and found her out of the bed, bundled up in the corner, hyperventilating and full of tears. I swooped her up and she started saying, 'Be careful, Dad, he's still in here.' I ran her back to our room and laid her in our bed with my wife and started searching the whole place. I turned all the lights on and checked literally everywhere, and there was no one. The doors were untouched, locks still in place, and windows unable to open. Honestly, I was feeling the walls and mirror looking for hidden doors. I asked my daughter what she saw, and she said she was laying on the top bunk and thought at first it was me walking towards their bunk. But as I got closer, she realized it wasn't me. She said the person was taller and skinnier than me. It also had smooth white paper skin and neck longer than a normal person. It was smooth and it looked naked but wasn't naked. It didn't appear to have much facial features. I asked if maybe it was a blanket, and she said, no, its skin was smooth without wrinkles, and it walked straight up to me and I covered myself. Then I watched it walk towards the door where your room is. I came down the bunk when it walked away and peeked out the den window, but saw it was still walking towards your room. So I hid in the corner, you found me, and I tried to stay quiet so it wouldn't hear me because I thought it would kill me. But I started panicking and couldn't breathe good trying to be quiet. I was thinking of running out the front door into the hallway. My wife asked our daughter if she was trying to be quiet, why did she yell, Mom? Our daughter said, no, I never said anything because I didn't want it to hear me and kill me. I didn't even hear our daughter say anything besides her hyperventilating as I got close to the bunk beds. I told my daughter not to mention what she'd seen to our son. I know he would be spooked if he found out his sister had a similar encounter a few hours after him. Both of our kids consistently slept in their own rooms since they were little, and have never run into our room in the middle of the night unless our son had a rare bathroom accident. At this point, we figured the kids' room was sketchy, so we kept them with us, then closed and locked our room from that room. It took an hour for my wife to fall back asleep. I was honestly spooked by this whole thing, so I left the hallway light on and figured I'd just keep watch and stay awake until daylight. After she fell back asleep, the closet light I left on turned off, and it wouldn't let me turn it back on, so I turned the bathroom light on. A little later, I heard loud knocking on the conjoining room door I had locked. I honestly got goosebumps and tried to convince myself it was coming from the front door, but knew it was from the conjoining door. I debated whether to ignore it or check. I felt vulnerable lying down without checking, so I went and there was nothing, just an empty room with the lights still on. Half an hour later, my wife, still asleep, started freaking out. She appeared to be having a night terror, which she has had before, about 1 to 2 times per year in past. I woke her up and she was frantic. She stood up and said she dreamt she woke up from a dream in the same bed. She went to the bathroom in our room, came out, and ended up being stuck in the other room, locked in with the evil entity. She said I had locked her in the other room and she was knocking like crazy in her dream, trying to get back in our side before the entity got her. Later in the morning, our son woke up and we asked him to describe what he saw. He said he saw what looked like a shape of a big tall kid with a long neck that was white or gray in color and had a big, scary, dark shadow walking around the room. He said it was making weird noises, like it was speaking words he didn't understand. He said it walked right up to him in the bed and had big eyes that glowed like our cat's eyes look in the dark. As the sun came out, we got the courage to go in the room and grab our belongings to leave. The last weird thing is the room had a weird smell, which wasn't present there the day prior. It smelled like a weird incense was lit. Kind of reminded me of those stick incense that were popular back in the 90s. So I personally didn't see this thing, but both of my kids who have never had encounters like this saw the same thing 3 hours apart from each other and had similar descriptions of it without knowing each other's account. The only thing that differed in their description was my daughter said it appeared faceless and my son said it had big glowy eyes and a white and gray tinge to it, not just white. However, my daughter covered herself when it got closer and my son watched it approach. I've never really been a big believer in hauntings and paranormal stuff, but after this, I'm left questioning it in my head and find myself thinking about it all the time. Anyone else with a similar experience at the Great Wolf Lodge or have any ideas of what it could have been? Oh my gosh, honestly, Josh Hallmark, one of my greatest friends from the podcast True Crime BS, went to the Great Wolf Lodge as a single person because he was with some family friends and stuff, and it was like, absolutely not. So I already marked Great Wolf Lodge out for me and myself in general. I would have packed up my family at 3:01 a.m., yeeted out of there without a backward glance. I would have called the front desk and be like, listen, you need to move my room because there's something going on in here. Send whoever you need to send up, get my room ready. I don't think you're crazy for questioning everything after this. I would be Googling the history of that land, every urban legend, past guest stories, Reddit threads, anything. And yes, I'm very curious whether anyone else also experienced anything similar there. I swear that places that seem fun for kids sometimes have the most haunted bones under them. Our next story is told by Julianne in Minnesota about something behaving human adjacent, moving around in our world like it belongs. Around 10 years ago, I used to work in a library whose front entrance was all glass, a wall of glass that was about 20 by 45. One afternoon, a nasty thunderstorm broke out. To be on the safe side, we used the PA to announce that a trip to the basement was imminent. The storm was getting darker and louder. The town's tornado sirens started blasting. We hurried everyone down the basement steps. There were a few stragglers watching near the entrance as the sky turned black and winds picked up. Rain lashed across the entrance, making it impossible to see out the front doors. Now, the strange part. This bad weather is normal around where I was, and everyone knows the drill. We start practicing in kindergarten on how to stay safe. There were two people that just weren't moving toward the basement door. They started to walk straight out the front doors, smack into the maelstrom. They didn't even hesitate, whoosh out the door and gone. I didn't even have time to yell for them to stop. Hours passed and we finally got the all clear call and everyone left the building. I went outside and it was a mess of downed trees and power lines. I never thought much of the story until a friend said to me, they probably weren't human in the first place. What human would walk out into a blinding storm as sirens are blaring? Thoughts? Well, if you ask my husband, it would probably be one of the greatest tornado catchers of all time, whose name I don't care to know. But this is a kind of story that worms its way into your head at 2 a.m. and refuses to leave because on the surface, it feels like one of those weird, almost explainable moments, until you sit with it for a second and realize how deeply wrong it actually is. Nobody with any kind of lived experience in a tornado town is just casually strolling into a wall of lashing rain and 80-mile-per-hour winds like it's a Tuesday afternoon. It gives me liminal space energy, like they weren't really part of your reality to begin with, just placeholders or something passing through. Or again, maybe some really excited tornado hunters. Storm chasers. The next story is told by Celebration Fool 7209, who swears they pressed 0. This happened in April, when I was staying at my cousin's place in Noida. They live in a high-rise, not super fancy, just a regular 10-floor apartment building. I took the elevator down around 11 p.m. to get something from the convenience store. I clearly remember pressing 0 for ground, but instead of going down, it went up. Weird, but I thought maybe someone called it. It stopped at 9. The doors opened. The lights in the hallway were off and it looked abandoned, dusty. But this was a working floor with families. I was confused, but stepped out for a second, thinking maybe I hit the wrong button. After a second, I got this crazy urge to leave. Like goosebumps, full body anxiety. I got back in and hit the ground. When I got back, I casually told my cousin. He stared at me and said, "Bro, 9th floor hasn't been finished yet. No one lives there. It's locked." I thought he was kidding, so I double-checked with the security guard, and no, he was not lying. The guard told me the same thing. We even went up the next morning. The lift skips that floor entirely. The button doesn't even light up anymore. I swear, I pressed 0. Why is it always the elevators? They're weird little boxes that move through places we're not always supposed to go. Do you guys remember that one episode I did where he went to it was an old building in, I want to say New Mexico, Albuquerque or something, and his dad used to work there, and it went up to this floor, and it was like it was so crazy. You have to go back and find it, honestly. You should be listening to the full episodes anyways, okay? Anyways, these elevators have a habit of just like taking you there anyway when it's not supposed to be open or it's locked. But seriously, how many stories have we heard now where the elevator decides just to go rogue, open up to some abandoned or impossible floor, or the other one that was in that college? Okay, I'm getting off track, okay? Either way, it's not fine, okay? I hate that, of course, that the button didn't work the next day. It's classic paranormal nonsense. Honestly, classic paranormal gaslighting. Like reality did a quick little patch update overnight so no one else stumbles into the wrong part of the simulation. It wasn't your imagination, it was just something you weren't meant to see. Incarnate Puppy 52 brings us our final story for this episode, and it's all about their ghostly roomie. I lived in an apartment back around 2012-2014. It was built on an old homestead where they said the bodies of a family were moved. There was one place in particular next to the office building for the complex that no one, and I mean no one, stepped on. The grass stayed perfect. I had multiple encounters there. I had a ghost cat. I had a child giggling at 2 a.m. I had a guy who hummed on camera. I had something hit me in the head once when I first moved in, which kind of angered me, and once I threatened to stage their ass, never happened again. I ordered pizza pretty regularly, and most of the guys knew me. One time I opened the door, the guy smiled and said, "Hey." He swiftly looked behind me, he turned pale, he actually shivered a bit and said, "Are you alone?" "Yeah," I said, smiling because it was kind of a funny situation. He shoved the pizza into my hands, I handed him the tip, and he left, running down the stairwell. Honestly, at that point, I was just so adjusted to the ghosts, I closed my door, turned and said, "Really, guys? Don't do that." I swear, once you hit a certain number of weird experiences in the same place, you just get over it. Threaten to sage them once, and suddenly you're roommates with boundaries. Honestly, this whole story feels like the opening chapter of a haunted sitcom I would absolutely watch. You versus your team of weird ghosts. Pizza Guy as a recurring side character who can see things. 10 out of 10 haunting etiquette from you. Well, that does it for this episode. Unless you're an Apple subscriber, in which case, stay tuned after the credits, where you'll get to hear 2 additional stories as a special treat. Well, that does it for this episode. If you'd like to submit your own personal spooky tale to be read on the show, head to hauntedpod.com and click on the link to submit your story. You can also email me, hauntedpod@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review on Apple Podcast or your podcast player of choice. It really does help. You can find us on Twitter, for now, at podcast_haunted, Instagram at It's Haunted What Now, or at hauntedpod.com. Production assistance by Jesse Hawk, writing assistance by Sherilyn Reyes. The official composer and audio smith for the show is Neeks at We Talk of Dreams. Check him out on Twitter at We Talk of Dreams or wetalkofdreams.com. Until next time. Did you hear that? The first bonus story is told by Teetle about a hotel whose prices are killer, but so is the company. This happened in a small hotel beside a busy highway. We were all sitting in the room, visiting my oldest brother in his town, having a good time. As our niece was trying to show everyone a new gymnastics move she learned, I was grabbing food for my mom and I. But when I tried to grab the sauce, it started sliding across the table, slowly and deliberately, as though someone was pushing it with their finger. I was looking at it, thinking I was seeing things, only to look over at my mom and see her staring at the same thing. We looked at each other, smiled in awe at what we were witnessing, then looked back at it. It only slid for a few seconds and never happened again. After it stopped, I started conducting research, jumping up and down near the table, shaking the table, waving a gust of wind towards it, blowing on it, but it didn't budge. Only when I physically pushed it did it move. We didn't feel scared though, until a separate encounter happened in the same room. We were all sleeping when a loud noise coming from the bathroom woke my mom up at 3 or 4 o'clock a.m. She woke up my dad. He went to check it out, and apparently my face wash had flown off the bathroom counter, even though that would have been basically impossible. Now my mom never wants to stay in that room again, but we still stay in the hotel because the prices are insanely good. I love that you didn't stumble into a full-blown horror movie with this one, and we can talk about how you immediately turned into a mini paranormal investigator, like you were gonna Mythbusters your way out of a haunting. Also, ghosts? Why? 3 a.m.? Do they keep union hours and can't haunt at reasonable times? Seriously though, I love this story. It's low-key creepy but still weirdly cozy, like a haunting you could put up with because it's got personality. Bonus story number 2 is from Pineapple Adept, who shows us that not every shadow in the dark is made of darkness. When I was about 14 years old, my cousin, who was around 12, was spending the night with me. We were in the living room sitting on the couch watching television at like 2 in the morning with all the lights off. The laundry room is right across from the living room with a small hall in between. All of a sudden, my cousin grabbed my leg and pinched the crap out of me. All she could say was my name repeatedly a few times, and finally she told me to look in the laundry room. I turned my head to look and froze with my mouth hanging open and everything. I'll try to explain it the best I can. It was like looking at a shadow person, but the complete opposite. It was the full outline of a human body, but it was made of a bright white light. It was like staring at a bare light bulb. The thing didn't try to come at us or anything. It just seemed to float in place and kind of moved back and forth a little. We both probably sat there for like what felt like forever, but I'm sure it was no more than a few minutes watching the thing. Then my cousin grabbed my hand and yanked me off the couch. We ran across the living room to turn on the lamp. Once we walked back to where we could see the entranceway, the thing was gone. I had all kinds of very weird experiences in this house since childhood through my teen years, and even into adulthood, but this is the only time I've actually seen a physical manifestation. I've always tried to explain it away, even asking my cousin a few times if she remembered it because I thought maybe I had made it up in my head. She definitely remembers it though. Is this a ghost? Something more? I have no idea. This is one of those stories that creeps under your skin in the quietest, most unsettling way, because it's not the typical shadow person or lurking figure in the corner. What gets me is how it didn't do anything. It just floated there, watching, and honestly, sometimes that's scarier than something aggressive, because it means whatever it was had no problem being seen and no fear of you. That quiet confidence is bone-chilling.
Wow. Thank you, Lainey. Slaney Hobbs, the Dawn Diva herself, for sharing that with us. Again, one final reminder, y'all, before I go, that we have the Susto Spellbook Club meeting coming up, where I'm aiming to do that on August 2nd. It's a Saturday. So again, make sure to keep an eye out on social media. That's at Susto Podcast for any and all updates about the book club. You can also, if you are a Patreon subscriber, you can visit patreon.com/Susto patreon.com/sustopodcast. And if you are in the middle and higher tier, then you have access to the book club Discord channel where you have the chance to vote on our next book and you have access to the chat throughout the entire reading of the book. Of course, we try to keep it spoiler free in there. Either way, the discussion itself is public for everyone to attend online. So just make sure you're following on social media and I'll share information about how to get to that. As always, your support and your patience means so much to me. So thank you for showing me that grace while I take this week off. And a special thank you to this week's patrons. You are Liza, Rachel, Alejandra, Luther, April, D, Josette, Sam, Mandy, Jules, Lori, Jeannie, Desiree C, Ashes, Neressa, Rachel A, Azucena, Marlene, Chata, Lainey, Desiree A, Carla, Archer, Ricardo, Vanessa, Maritza, Nieves, Manormal, Iris, Mad, Flor, Selena, Nightingale, Clint, and Rachel W. Thank you from the bottom of my cold, dead black heart. I think I feel a little dunk 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 dunk. Y'all are bringing it back to life. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you in the next episode. Until then, no te asustes. Bye.